Welcome to Troubleshooting Innovation, a commercial baking podcast, sponsored by Oaks. Worldwide since 1946, Oaks is your partner for mixing and depositing process solutions in commercial baking. I'm your host, Joanie Spencer, Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Baking, and I'm spending this season with Marc and Elana Schulman, the second and third generations of leadership at Chicago-based Eli's Cheesecake. We are exploring innovation, growth, longevity, and resilience through the eyes of a family-owned bakery. In this last episode of the season, we are looking at the future, how Eli's is innovating as a trailblazer in a mature industry and with a classic product. Hi, Marc and Elana. I'm so happy to talk to you guys one more week.
We're sad this is the last one.
It's really been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this journey through sort of past, present, and now future of Eli's. We closed the last episode sort of talking about the expansions and some of the lessons that you're going to apply for the future. So I want to kind of cap that off. We spent a lot of time reflecting on the pandemic, and having a major project like this sort of impacts perspectives. And we talked about that, like what would have happened if the bakery had expanded 5 years ago before the pandemic? What do your priorities look like now versus they would have 5 years ago?
The fundamentals are really the same. We've really moved our business as much as possible away from being transactional with customers to much more long-term relationships. So you're thinking ahead, you're planning, you're certainly giving the quality, but you're just more conscious about where we are, where we want to go. And it really makes work a lot more exciting because, you are planning for the future. But when you're in any business, certainly a bakery business, you have so many different functions and skill sets in product development and marketing, obviously all the operations, sales, and then how you're able to take advantage of that. Because I'd say that that's really the skill set, because if you're not focused as an organization, you're really leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. So I'd say we're trying to really focus ourselves in that way, because also what it does, it's like building this building. We used bricks. It was more efficient. You can't build a big business with lots of little bricks. You can have a lot of customers, but you got to say, hey, where are we going to be a subject matter expert? Where do we have the opportunity to take that category and develop the product? So I think we're a little more thoughtful. Certainly having Elana here has been extremely beneficial, because I think that she brings skill sets that I don't have. And also, when you have the passion of being Eli's granddaughter and you're really thinking about the future and what we do, we got a lot of people to take on the ride with us. We've been successful because of the people to date. We want to grow, more team members for the future. And, I think we're very optimistic, but those fundamental Eli's values, the treat the other as though you're the other, charity will never bust you, those still drive our business. Those haven't changed. And I think that's really important for all of us.
Okay, so how do you apply those fundamentals? Treat the other as if you were the other, and charity will never break you. How do you see those sort of threading through decisions that you make operationally as you plan with this expansion?
I mean, look, I think the expansion is to complement what we do. I've been in bakeries after they've closed, when they failed or they sold or they got out of the business, and you walk around and, you see a calendar from 6 months ago and you see coffee cups and there's no people. So the lifeblood of the business is the people who make it possible. We want a better, nicer environment. We want to spread out, in our plans is an innovation education center. So we really can have our home, expanded locker rooms, be it nice for our people, all of us, as it can be. And so There's capital spending to do it, and it's significant, but we don't want to work for our facility. And that's one of my father's other basic values was own your own real estate. And as a restaurateur, he didn't have that opportunity. So the fact that we own the building, that we can improve it, that we could, coming out of COVID, we redid our cafe, which is part of the facility. So we're going to be a better company, and the facility is going to help expand the facility, help us do it. But the facility is not going to do the heavy lifting.
Right. And I think that you guys do have something really special in that it's not we're investing in this facility and we're going to expand our capabilities, and we have these fundamental values. They're interwoven together.
Oh, absolutely. Because, as I've said, one of the exciting things of Elana joining the business was our associates see a family commitment to the business, of being multi-generational. And if, the goal is all of a sudden, we're going to build this expansion, but it's going to change everything. We're going to make things totally differently. We don't do things that way. And I think, again, we're proud to make everything in Chicago. This is a great location. We're 20 minutes east of O'Hare, so people get in and out. One thing about Chicago, by being in the middle of the country, we could ship things efficiently to the West Coast or the East Coast. We can ship things to ports to go overseas. Years ago, our real estate advisor said, don't fall in love with your real estate. But we did in the location. So again, it gives us the opportunity to tell our story better. That's all good. But if we don't live up to Eli's values and start just thinking very differently about people, that would be a pretty sad day. So I don't see that happening.
Yeah. And I think that that's a good reminder to people in the industry that investments and values could run parallel, but they should intertwine.
And look, businesses take many forms. There's startups, there's strategics, there's global companies. I mean, the good news for us and what we think of our lane of business, we have exceptional product development skills, great skills in food safety and quality, commercialization, but it's very personal. And so if a customer has an issue or an opportunity, good or bad, we're there to deal with it, and we're there to deal with it that day. I think that response is something that all of our customers, from a small chain to an individual restaurateur to the largest retailers and food service chains in the country, they really like that. So we feel we're in a really good space. And I think we just got to really work hard to live up to a reputation.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that reputation in terms of product development. The Schulmans are a family of innovators. I think that is probably one of the biggest takeaways from this month with you guys. How do you keep coming up with such cool products? Like, where do these ideas come from, and how is that driving the future? You are super innovative, and what kind of pressure comes with that, especially like knowing that you're Eli Schulman's granddaughter?
It's such a good question. I'm just so proud to be Eli's granddaughter. And I think that, I never actually got to meet him. He died 2 years before I was born, but I definitely feel his energy all the time. And I think I really have this passion for hospitality and for restaurants and for taking care of people. And it's really wonderful that we can apply all of those things to Eli's and can kind of create this world that we think is a really like wonderful place to innovate in and to work in. And then in terms of coming up with ideas, we've just always been eaters. That's how my grandfather was. Like, he was like a total self-taught cook. He would go and eat something and be like, oh, I think I can make this better. And like go back in the kitchen and make it. And we love eating. Eating has always been such a joyful part of our childhood and growing up in the restaurant. And so I was always just really excited when I was in the kitchen. I was like a 8-year-old watching the Food Network, was just obsessed with that world. So I think that because we as a family and as a business just have so much fun, like literally talking about food and what we're excited to eat and flavors we're excited about, it's a very natural process. And so I am so fortunate that I get to collaborate with our R&D team, and Diana Moles, our VP of Innovation, Senior Vice President of Innovation, leads that team, has been at Eli's for 37 years. But we just have a very similar palette. And I think when we come together, it's like creative problem solving, like, let's try this format or let's make this tweak. And it's just a really nice sort of back and forth. And so I'm so grateful for relationships like that, because I think that when innovation is at its best.
Well, one, I'm picturing innovation happening in the Schulman family kitchen. When we did the live podcast at ASB's Baking Tech, I kept hinting at wanting a dinner invitation to your house. But it just seems like it's fun and product development sort of go hand in hand. Like it's just sort of part of your essence. But then also, what does it look like when you are having those official meetings? Like, do you have scheduled product development meetings? Do you guys get together once a week, once a month? Is it just more, I was at a trade show and I saw this really cool thing?
It's really all of the above. I think a story we take a lot of pride in. You do the right thing. So last year, Mayor Lightfoot gave an award, a Medal of Honor for the city of Chicago. So that award it was given to a number of individuals and given to Eli's Cheesecake. And it was given because of our work with refugees and our work in donating cakes during COVID. And so at that ceremony, the Chicago Cultural Center, we were sitting next to Nick Cave and Bob Faust. Nick Cave, the really famous artist who was opening this huge show at the Museum of Contemporary Art. And Maureen, my wife and our publicist, and as she would always do, said, "Hey, Nick, Bob, maybe we can do something together." And they said, "Yeah, sounds good." And then really their energy matched our energy. And then Maureen and Diana developed this amazing custom cutie with this spectacular packaging with symbols from the show for love and peace, really a beautiful product. And we did it for mail order with a donation to their foundation. And it was like just so out of the box, and it was so impossible. And we didn't do it, oh my God, because we're going to sell so many of the money. We did it because it was fun to work with Bob Faust.
And we believed in Nick Cave's message. So I think that's when we always say, like, cheesecake is the ultimate canvas. Like, you can do anything with it, and desserts in general. And so, yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And then the other thing too is I love when you can create new things from places that were maybe unexpected or past experiences. So this year I did a collaboration with a good friend of mine, Natasha Pikowicz, who's a James Beard nominated pastry chef, and she just came out with her debut cookbook, More Than Cake. And so we did this really amazing cheesecake, olive oil cake hybrid collaboration for mail order. And it's so great because, it's someone that I worked with when I was a video producer in New York. And so it's always nice to see where different parts of your life and career, where they can intersect at Eli's. And for anyone, I really do believe that the more diverse your path is and the different experiences you have, that also is a huge role in innovation.
This episode is brought to you by Oaks. An important part of choosing the right equipment is the opportunity to try it. Oaks recognizes this critical step in the selection process by making many technologies available through an equipment rental system. Try Oaks equipment in your plant today. Visit www.oaks.com. That's www.oakes.com to learn more. Before I came into this industry 15 years ago, I don't think that I would have imagined cheesecake as a canvas for creativity and things like the NASCAR cake. I mean, you guys are known for this. Eli's is known not only for the quality of your products, but also sort of the role you play in the Chicago community and doing these cool fundraisers and having this innovative kind of product development that's specific to an event or a cause. In fact, I remember when we launched our website, commercialbaking.com, one of Eli's initiatives was one of the very first stories up on our website. And I think it was a Valentine's Day promotion that it was sharing the love, that you were donating proceeds with online purchases. So you have tapped into so many of these opportunities with a lot of cause and reason behind it. Why do you think it's important for a baking company to innovate in this way?
I think, every company has to find its own personality and sort of reason to be. We obviously have heritage that goes back, to 1940, really, my father even growing up in Chicago, and the beliefs that, Maureen and I have, that Elana and her sisters have, and, all the people we work with at Eli's, that, we make delicious desserts, but look at the impact that we can have and do the right thing. And it could be as simple as giving desserts to a charity or to any group. It could be advocacy for Chicago High School for Ag Sciences or people with disabilities. I mean, what an opportunity that we get. So the question would always be, why not? If you just come together and the goal is, hey, all we want to do is make a lot of cheesecake and make a lot of money. Yeah, do we need to make money? Yeah, otherwise, we won't be around. But it can't be the factor, you always sometimes meet people whose goal is get in, build it up, and sell it. And sometimes they're serial entrepreneurs, and there are people in our industry who've been very successful in doing that. But our view is, hey, we have this amazing heritage. And when we use all these resources, and I think, look, anybody, when you go into business, understand, when we meet individuals who start a food company, you go through, do you know your cost structure? Where you're going to make the product? How are you going to distribute it? What's the distributor margin going to be? Oh, you're going to sell it to a retailer? What are they going to charge? Oh, you're selling the retailer. Are you going to be SQF certified? All those things. I think we have the benefit is, when we're in meetings and people go, oh, you've done so great and the achievements. And I go, yeah, but this is my parents' achievement. It's what they spent all those years in the restaurant working to achieve. And yeah, we took advantage of it, and Elana will certainly take it further, but we had a whole lot going for us. And as I say, the exciting thing is Eli was just such a great figure and great host. And so, when you're out there, telling the story, so you're always going to somebody, hey, do something that's fun, do something that's authentic, do something where you could work with nice people, do something where you can make a difference. And, hey, for us, as you said a few minutes ago, and Elana said, the canvas is Cheesecake. It's just great to work with. But it took a whole lot to get it there, and it took a whole lot by a whole lot of people. We've been blessed at Eli's to work with individuals for 20 years, 30 years, 37 years, long time working together, and in many cases now working with their children. As Elana's third generation, we do have other third generation individuals in the business. So it's great. And the food world and the baking world is a great place to do it. And it's a great place to do it in Chicago.
Absolutely, it is. And, I was thinking, I'm backtracking a little bit when you said you got that advice from your realtor that said, don't fall in love with your location. That realtor didn't know that there was going to be supply chain disruption and you were going to have access to ports.
Well, interestingly, he did agree. I think you're correct, because what he said, up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he said, I can get you a building in the suburbs. I can get you this rent. I can do it. Well, what happened is, and I think it's true nationally, large part because of logistics, industrial buildings have been the best part of the market. So suddenly the building is so valuable. He goes, boy, you have to add on here. You have to do this. So he came around and, we love Chicago. We love the location. And again, when we opened this facility, we had Mayor Daley, Governor Edgar, President Strozier. We're looking forward to sort of recreating it with Mayor Johnson, Governor Pritzker, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, President Preckwinkle. So hopefully, as they say and see that, Eli's Cheesecake is Chicago's most famous dessert, a symbol of the city. And hey, it's with all of their support that we have been able to grow to this point, and that we're going to make this addition and the other work we're going to do that much better for Chicago.
So, okay, I want to ask you one thing as far as that growth and creating growth opportunities. What about partnerships or relationships with your suppliers? I mean, this is a really people-driven company. So what sort of expectations do you have in how you choose suppliers in terms of the relationship? Like, how much weight do you put on the relationship, and how much do you lean on your suppliers for like product development? Or Elana, when you're coming up with a new variety and is it viable, how do you look at your supplier partners, not just your ingredient supplier partners, but equipment and the machinability of a new idea?
I mean, if I've learned one thing in my time at Eli's, it's that like relationships are everything. And I think there were times where we would not have made it through without those relationships. And I think especially with like equipment suppliers, there's also times where we had a line of equipment that was really busy for a while and was at like a platform that was doing really well. And then maybe it kind of died down for a little bit and then it came back. But when it came back, we needed to refurbish the equipment, or we needed to add on some other parts to just kind of like get what we needed. And without having those relationships, we wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, especially when you think about relationships that have dated back 30 years, one thing that I am very passionate about is our archive. And my family we've always been photographers and scrapbook makers, and there's stuff that dates back to like the early 1900s. But I've been looking at a lot of photos from the original Dakin Street facility and when we first moved in here. And you're looking at pictures from, 40 years ago with the same equipment suppliers. And there's people at those businesses that we've been working with since that time. And so having that historical knowledge, working relationship between both parties is just invaluable.
I agree. And I think it's a hallmark of this industry. So I've been doing baking industry media for about 15 years, but I started on the retail side. And I remember when I came over to the commercial side of the baking industry, I thought I kind of had, I think, the same stereotype in my mind that the typical consumer has, and that's of big food. And you think that it's going to be a bunch of big companies and no one really knows each other and it's cold and impersonal. And it's the opposite. Relationships really are everything in this industry.
Absolutely. And I think even with customer relationships as well, people move on to different places. And I think that's been really valuable to us too. It's like an opportunity might come up with one customer and then that person then leaves to go to another business and then a new opportunity pops up. So it's interesting to track development of products and product lines and then kind of track it to like certain people and relationships and like how those evolve over time.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to describe it.
And what's happened with those supply chain disruptions, we had a lot of, commodities were something, hey, you could always get, there's no issue. And we had more instances where suppliers said, I'm getting out of the business. I can't supply you. I had a call with the CEO of a pretty big chocolate company and saying, wait a minute, we buy a lot of chocolate of this special type from you. We placed the order. They accepted it. Then they rejected it. And he said, well, we're having problems maintaining our equipment and people don't want to work Saturday. And hey, if I said that to our customers, they wouldn't buy from us again. So guess what? We found another supplier. So, I think what goes around comes around. We've had a lot of other suppliers stand up within shelf life, starches. I mean, all these very important components that go into a dessert. You really learn who's there to help. And again, in the food industry, there's some exceptional partners. And then there are companies that, hey, if they have the capacity, they'll sell it to you, but they're not going to do anything to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's important to be able to make those distinctions, and relationships are the best tool for that, I think.
Definitely.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of our time, you two. So I have a couple of questions left. So we're looking at a family of innovators, and I just one of the closing thoughts would be, what does the future look like? Marc, you've beautifully carried on your father's legacy. Now, as you look at the path ahead, what would you say are your hopes and dreams for the future now that Elana is here and she's sort of carrying the torch?
Well, I think that, one, she has a good experience. I mean, you should do it because you want to do it, not because it's your name or someone else. So the issue is, are you having a great experience? Do you like the people you work with? Clearly, we're at a point in our career where we've had individuals retire. That's something that's hard to deal with in a lot of ways, but are we developing new leaders? How are we taking advantage of always re-energizing our business? I hope Elana, as I got the benefits from my parents, gets the benefit of a lot of work that's gone into it and, stability and opportunities. But the fact that many, many years from now, we're still telling the story of, Eli and what was done in the first cake, and soon it'll be Chicago's 200th birthday or whatever these events are that we're continuing to do. But as Eli said on the menu, we'll serve good food always. And I think we got to keep our values very focused and basic.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess on the flip side then, Elana, what's your sort of vision for the future? Because after these 5 weeks together, when I look at your role in this and I think of the company, I have this vision of like a family homestead, a historic home that's had families living in it for generations. And you give updates, you paint it, you buy new furniture, but you always want to keep the foundational historical features. So if you look at it kind of through that lens, how do you see taking this family bakery into the future?
That's like a beautiful way of putting it. I really like that. For me, it's really about making sure that the people are always number one and that we're always investing in people and giving back to the community, and at the same time making these amazing desserts. And it is what we're doing now. I think there's obviously all different ways to approach that. But to me, I just feel like what drives me in business is that I have the ability to sort of craft this world that I think is like an ideal place to work in. And it's not always perfect and we can always do better. But I think that you don't always have control of what's going on around you in the world, but we have control of what's going on at Eli's. And so I think a lot about like sustainability, but not just from an environmental side of things, like sustainability in the sense of how can you create a work culture and environment that's really good for people and their mental health, and that people feel like they can bring their best selves to work and that they can be creative and that they are in a safe space to take risks. And so those are just things that I think about all the time. Do I have the answers now of necessarily how you do all of that? No, but I think that I'm really focused now on just taking in as much as I can, learning as much as I can about the business, and also really thinking about developing that next generation of leaders, because that's why we've been so successful, because my dad has really just done such a good job of developing people and really getting them on Team Eli's and seeing the vision and getting people excited. And he energizes people. And that's something that is just I am like really in awe of every day and something that I want to make sure that I bring into my chapter of the business.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And one parting thought that I want to share, we talked about it at IBIE last year, and then during Baking Tech's live podcast, I said, Elana, I just have to say, I love your dad. And you said, I love him too. And that is just sort of, I think, the essence of Marc Schulman and the legacy that is Eli's. There's just like a lot of love in Cheesecake with this family bakery.
We agree.
Well, I cannot wait to see what the future holds for Eli's, and I can't wait to see what the next gigantic cheesecake is going to be and how you celebrate, and also just how the industry is impacted by the good work that you do through your cheesecake business.
Thank you so much, Joanie. This has been an incredible 5 weeks, and we're really so honored that you would take this time to get to know our story, and we learned so much from you.
Well, thank you.
We look forward to you visiting us, and right after we cut the ribbon, or maybe for the ribbon cutting. So thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you for allowing me the privilege of sharing your story with our industry. It's a wonderful story, and you're a wonderful family, and I appreciate your time and your thoughtfulness and everything that you do for your company and your industry. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Troubleshooting Innovation, and a special thanks to this season's sponsor, Oaks, your partner for mixing and depositing process solutions since 1946. Visit www.oaks.com. That's www.oakes.com to learn more about Oaks' R&D lab, equipment rental, and more.